Sanje Cheda
So ki chonam la janju badu dagni gapsu chi dagi chanyin ki pe choknam ki jolam panju sange jupa so ke chodang so ki chonam la janju badu dagni gapsu chi dagi chanyin ki pe choknam ki jolam panju sange jupa so Chodang Soki Chonam Lo Janju Badu Dagi Gapsu Chi Dagi Chunyin Gibe Choknam Ki Jolam Banje Sange Drupar So Gate Gate Parasum Gate Bodhi Svaham Dayatha Gate Parasum Gate Bodhi Svaham Gate Parasum Gate Bodhi Svaha.
Ola so ta kanje semja tamje ge do tobja lana ma che wa sanje ye ko ma re mo che chine ya toba cha an di che do me janju semba la cha na chu shi do nyang lang ge la wa le xin go shi ba le tue go le tue ji shu ma no ko de an ka zo ba wa de ta che ge se ge che be nyam le ge shu ge bo da bo an ju ju go shu de ne de she chim bi shi ne ge sam sam che.
So we begin by setting our motivation, of course, to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. Knowing that to attain such a state, I must perfect all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. And to do that in turn, I must have a good understanding of what they are about. To gain that understanding, I must be able to rely upon an unmistaken text and unmistaken presentation. And thus it is that I am here this morning to listen to just a brief explanation of some of the text known as the King of Mind training texts, the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, as composed by the great master Shantideva.
아니 다다 뒤진데 내신잖아 아니 가서 말아서 소신제 세다를 어떤 시기 여기 인사 어다가자 랑게 둥게 난가라 뭐랑게 진짜 자 라마 임발라 나마 탑kel라 투제 전부다 봐 아니 라마 투가 오버 세다.
And so, as we normally do also, we set up the merit fields prior to beginning. And this merit field consists of, in actual fact, my own root guru, but in the aspect of the Guru Munindra Shakyamuni Buddha, who is in the space in front. He is skilled in means and greatly compassionate. He has one face, two hands, and dressed in the saffron robes of a monk.
고라 세지 차냐 어떻게 고라 주고 물어서 예산에 인야절 뒤져가 놓잖아 어디를 저 공부시 어디를 저 어디다 되게 세트에 라마토베 오버디 아니 구송 투게 연대 용스도 연대 말로가 상대가지 어디를 공부시.
And so the right hand is in the earth touching mudra, touching the earth and just in front of the right knee. And the left hand is in the meditative equipoise mudra, holding an alms bowl filled with nectar. The figure also is like we recognize the qualities of body, speech, and mind of the Guru Munindra and have great admiration for those qualities.
라지바 탐제는 저와 시엔지바다 저와 탑을 켜봐 꿀라 투제 전부 일이 몇번 주봐 팬다 마다게 탐제가 되는 세계 말하고 주더라 두게 말하고 주더라 람라라 말하고 주더라 뭐 봐서 사지 되겠지 어떤 이바데 모티베트는 없고 마시
Likewise, the enlightened being has no fear of suffering in relation to themselves. 2 is skilled in means in removing the suffering of others. 3 works for the benefit of all without bias and with great compassion. And 4 works to benefit all regardless of whether there is any benefit in return. The Buddha also has generated for our sake the mind of enlightenment, and for our sake also proceeded on the path to refine that mind of enlightenment, and for our sake manifested full and complete enlightenment. So it's taking all these characteristics into consideration as we view the merit field.
오다 된데게 라마 투베 공부도 오다 된데게 담지바 세다바데 아니 이시바 젠타에 이시바 젠타나 오다 지다 지가서데 가서래 다 간제 가소래 다 간제 산제기 매매 내매버려 가바이는 이시 간제로 꾸이 쳐버려 이내 양가라도 저 가소래 지금 탐에 와라 나 때문에 나 두고 매버 인자 나라도 삼로다 투바전에 맞제라 로를 쇼고 매버려 다 근데 이뭐인도 아니 다 어디데 전에 다 간제 지금 라마투베 뭐 세다 안티 되게 담세 봤다는 이시바 젠장 투바이나 젠장의 거 삼로다는 미과 대자 아니 가서데 아니 사람을 지금 저때 조사 집장에 내려면 뭐 야무 인사 어디를 제대 아니 지고 엄가고 제마 아무 두가 홍무 이게 숨지 세다 아니 되게 두가 홍래 왜서 빠도 매봐 쳤네 아니 가서다 타입에 맞게 심지 탐제게 내도 디지털 통하면 디바 탐제 맞장치 따봤어 근데 자식 다네 다 내도 디지털 맞장치 다네 아니 되게 개화돼 아니 동성부 동체부 직내 칸 용도는 최바를 쩌네 아니 초주 개화 세다 제발 야 최바표 근데 초주 개화의 세다 제발 최바표가 되네 아니 대다가 투주 최바표와 대다가 시에네 아니 대다가 투주를 대화 중 대외 동반에 대동녀스의 이시 계속 쓰다 어딘데 공부 시도는 야부여 봐라 어딘데 참
And so likewise, then we visualize the pledged beings, the Samaya beings, and the wisdom beings that are invited from the pure realms. Now, for it's clear that the nature of the Buddha is such that wherever the consciousness of the Buddha is, there also is the body of the Buddha that has that feature of omniscience, and but for our sake and for those like us, we kind of visualize this sense of consecration of the figure that we're visualizing in the merit field, and thereby the wisdom beings come and dissolve into the central figure, and the consecration beings, the pledge beings, bestow the nectar of empowerment and so on, and that we. And then the light rays emanate from the central figure through the body, speech, and mind of the central figure, going out into all the realms of existence and permeating through the bodies of all the sentient beings of existence, so that all their negativities and obscurations are completely purified. And the merit arising, or the virtue arising from that, is manifest as the kind of the offerings that fill the whole realms of space. And this in turn is that which pleases the Buddha, the Guru Manindra, that we are visualizing in the space in front. That bliss transforms or combines with voidness, and the figure enjoys the wisdom.
No. 이해도 들었어요. 단단 어제 세다에 담시바 세다요라 라마 투병고 세다 대지고 저바 두가홍을 왜서 빠도 매버터네 또 왜서 빠도 매버터네 아니 가서도 도와리 두고 심지 탐제게 내도 디 탐제 파세와체 된데가 세외 개와디 아니 초주 개와 세다 제발로 초바표네 초주 개와 세다 제발로 야 초바표 초바 표할 때는 대다가 초바 되게 다게 시험할 때는 대다가 투기를 대화종 대외 동반제 대동예수의 이시 계속 삼삼체 아니 어디를 제 아니 다 아니 되네 아니 초주 개와 세다 제바 구성도가 연대 대다 탐제 연대 이발라 나마 투병을 나바 젠다네 아니 다는 어제 담제발 나마 투병을 세다 봐 줘봐 안 딜라팀에 아니 라마 투병 어텐데게 가서 담세 받아 아니 이시발 라마 투병 나바 표한테 아니 니숨에 봐자 찍도 좀 삼삼체
Damsi batang and in the yeshiva.
근데 담세바 세다베들와 세다베들라 초주 개와 세다 저 구소도가 연대 임발라 나바 라마 투병 나바 젠자는 편에 아니 랑게 세다베 라마 투병 것들 바팀스 팀 아니 팀이 왔다 디니 찍도 줄래 뭐 예매 줄 삼사자 그래서
The also
예스나
topo wangba la team 게 말아.
투병 옹볼라 팀 거죠 투병 옹볼라 said the two. Tanda also we said Choya, Chuji gave us Tanda the Simja Tamja and the dictator Jangade, Ranga said that Lama Tuba on Bogue, Chibo on Jamba, Tuga, only we said Chode, Simja Tamja and the dictator. And Deda Gewadi, and Tongsum don't you Jidenga Yonzo and Chebe Suzu June, and Choju gave us said that Jabala, but Chubapi. Chubapi, Deda, and Chuba Dagir Shene, and the Deda to you let Dewato. They were Tombaji, they don't use what she get. And they don't use where she get, and the Dageta, a Kusum took a Yunde Yimala, number Lama Tuba, number Chen Tane, and the Dana was doing a set of Tunga said Lama Tuba party. And did Timbalatene, that Lama Tuba on Bodita, a Dendega Yeshiba did, war Yemet Juna. That's it. War Yemet Jus, what did they go by Shetuna?
No, so.
And you that did it, that did it.
So just clarifying then that from the heart center of the Guru Manindra that we are visualizing, the light rays emanate and they enter into all the sentient beings in all the 6 realms of existence, purifying all their negativities and obscurations. And this then is kind of manifested as the virtue that is offered to all of the conquerors of the 10 directions. And they're from being offered that virtue, that virtue, they experience this bliss combined with voidness, and they're able to abide in the wisdom of that bliss combined with voidness. And from that, then is again really it's kind of re-emerges the Guru Manindra that we are visualizing in the space in front, and that also that they becomes one with the wisdom beings.
What is it? And Laya Lama to say Lama to Umbo to Gale, we said to Antana, and Onkel Hana Janta, and only uncle, and almost what I was sharing was that only uncle, on Kuishi to second. And Chui Lama Cheto never left, and we give a weekend it. What is the combat? What is it?
Then again, light rays emanate from the hung at the heart center of the Guru Manindra, and this then brings forth the empowering deities, and the empowering deities confer the nectar of empowerment, some of which overflows at the crown and spontaneously produce the figure of Akshobhya.
What did the combat? What is it? What Rang do not said that Lama Tuba on Bodeta, Gasolata, but Yeshiva was Shuneta, what did the Chantabe, Lama Tuba on Casada, Yeshiva was so there, Gasolata, Chuji Gawa said that about Dani indicate. The more you met, Dani then. What did it combat, what did it say? And then Ranga Tago, Tinju Making Sinja Tam, what what is combat?
And so with the dissolution of the wisdom beings into the central figure of the Guru Manindra in the merit field, we have the certainty that the Guru Manindra is inseparable from all of the conquerors of the 10 directions. And now similarly, also we visualize all around us, all kind mother sentient beings.
What did it say? What did they do? That's Simja Tamjag, Tungeg Natsula Dan Rota, Tungeg Natsula Coachita Chadago, Tungen Natsula Damne, Tungen Natsude, Shevetone, Tetala, and Nijeke, Roa, Nijeke, the Tungeg Nawal Music, Nije, the what they do with Chamba. And Ranga Duna said that Lama Tuba on Bote, Kusugo Yunde, 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 and Watson, and Shevetone, de la Tave, de Wajig, de Wamudu, de Wattage, Compashet, and the day into a talk, but then the subject comes and to make you the Tana Chimor, Tawachu, the water, the vegetable, the Nachimor, the Wachu, the Washoche. Or and the to never when you reach out on the Daniel and the Chimor, never judge, never short. And never target chicken. That I general Lama to be over chicken lot so commercial.
And so, in viewing all of the sentient beings all around us, we are keenly aware that these sentient beings are suffering the various sufferings of cyclic existence, be it the general or the particular sufferings related to cyclic existence. And from that contemplation arises naturally this sense of compassion for sentient beings, that they may be free from suffering and its causes, as well as the love really determined to place them in happiness and its causes. And in line with that, also with ourselves and all the sentient beings, also viewing the qualities of the Guru Buddha in the space in front of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, we generate the triple faith: faith of conviction, manifest faith, and the pure faith. And how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and its causes. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and its causes. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had a happiness that knows no suffering and the excellent bliss of liberation. And how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings could abide in equanimity, free from attachment and anger that hold some close and others distant.
但是呢，那甚至他们这个对你也主个是吧？主个主对，但甚至他们这现在甚至几个对话，他们这对吧？东个他们这的这话起码都话，他我吃我话，他起码都话谁不是？他的那个这图个牛巴的出来都是呢，甚至都土家，那么我把做嘛三家吧，我他看了都，看个看嘛，他话伊那他甚至个都他起不着，可是甚至个对中是对，甚至看到没把扒了你把其他些的看不同的主角了没都，对对就嘛现在主图个没把引脏。인자 오다 공개 공부하지 마도 타면도 다들 토바지기 삼사다 맞아 타면도 토바지기 삼사 공부하셔.
And so when we have generate this sort of determination to personally take responsibility for leading all the sentient beings into these states and away from suffering to the point of enlightenment, we quickly realize that, we don't have the capacity for that now, not even for one sentient being. That's very clear. But when we look to who has that capacity, who is able to do that, we realize it's the state of a Buddha. That the Buddha has that capacity to be able to work for all sentient beings and to remove the suffering of all sentient beings, because only a Buddha has that breadth of knowledge related to the dispositions and the karmic contemplations and so on of all sentient beings. And so it becomes very clear that I will determine to attain the state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings, because it is there's no other choice. I really have to attain that state of enlightenment.
그거 지금에서 어떤데게 장주가 좀 가서다 좀存这个 setup 어디를 공부하셔 아니 된데게 공부하시 시에네 된데게 가서다 심지 탐정도 돼 약간 게 주바 지금 서다 된데게 둥바데 아니 가서다 가서 이게 아찔라 교수 삼사체 랑이니까 거도 이게 아찔라 교수 아용소 주발래 아니 다외 긴고 냐카와체 준 어디를 내수 삼사 공부하셔.
And so generating this mind of enlightenment as genuinely as we can, not superficially, but as genuinely as we can. And that aspiration itself transforms into the seed syllable A, which we can visualize on a moon mandala seat at our own heart center.
하나 된게 산제 공부 주가 지기서 나한테 가와도 제죠. 나한테 류들에도에 샘들에도에 와 제제도 다 아니 나한테 아니 가서도 저 가서도 류기 때문에야 나 임바디 나한테리샤 주고 조사도 가서도 다 주전자요 말이야. 아니 생배들 생배 차차 처음부터야 때 나리샤서 주고 조사는 매버이도 다가 nga 많이 받다가랑 가라 셈샤.
And so then when we ask this I that wants to attain the state of enlightenment for the benefit of all, where is that I? And we look into the body and the mind, looking into the different parts of the body to see, is there anything that can be pointed to that satisfies that conception of I? And not finding it there, we look into different parts of the mind, the consciousness, and to find that it again we come up short. We reach a point where we do not find that which we are looking for, and we try to place the mind just on that mere negation of the object of negation.
What that then nga mani bate nga mabe nga mebe to mani bache nga mani bate nga rawa mebe ta der nga rawa do mebe ta de sha sa nga ro ta nga yo bate nyoe to nga jibu to nga jibu me do nga dewa to gu to nga to nga to gu me do ko rang che do yo sa bate ko nyoe ji to gu to ina ta nga yo da de ge de yo sa na ko na wa na shi me do ko lu da sem gil chobala de ne tak tam ji 다가랑 딱점 찍면도 다 매되겠지. 어다데 되지 샤스. 어데데자 로아가 때내 중앙 류섬 촉발라 때내 중앙 점면도 어다 때내 딱점 레면도 딜레시면 가지 민도 서서 어데데자 어다 거든가 매베 되마죠. 라운도 마주베 되이번 어쩌바 쟤는 어다 된데게 라운도 마주바 녜베다 지금 동방 녜베 된데게 로데 아니 이게 홍제라 교수 상처 홍 요소 교원에 안 도지 가고 쟁가 봐지 홍게 처바 유견제 다외던도 내서 상처자 어떻게
And so the point then of looking for this self and not finding that self does not conclude that therefore self is non-existent. It certainly does exist. We can verify that from our own experience, because we know that I am happy, I am sad. But what it's saying is it doesn't exist in a self-powered kind of way, and that it does not exist in the way that it appears. It is merely imputed on the basis of body and mind, and other than that, it does not exist. And so this looking into this mind of emptiness, the state of emptiness, is symbolized by the seed syllable hong, which is again at the heart center, the five-pronged and transforms into a white-pronged vajra, marked by that seed syllable hong, again in our heart center.
게 아니 장주가 셈대다 아니 동민이 도배 셔랍 되니 아니 배 가서 다 뒤남양 아니 배 가서 마데네 아니 랑게 가서다 제시가 손전에 아니 배 장주가 셈 권에 권도 장주 셈 주마 춘제데 아니 주마 많이 배 뭐를 주는 권에 권도 돼 아니 돈이 도배 셔랍 돼 안다리 이슈 장게 고아데 아빠 세다 치네 아니 무슨도 도배 뭘 주네 되네 관에 관도 보네 산제게 아니 돈이 더 배셔라고 뭘 주주에 누가 캐바제 차서 다 약간 쉬워 주수 삼사 어제는 공부자
And so to really conclude how now we have at our very heart center this reality of the mind of enlightenment combined with the wisdom of emptiness, that is we're never to lose mindfulness of that in our mind and in our actions, so that any kind of artificial aspect of it is rendered into that which is completely genuine. And in relation to the mind of enlightenment, and in relation to our understanding of emptiness, that whatever partial understanding we have of it now that it becomes more complete and more deep and clearer and clearer and clearer to the point of direct realization. And to feel that with this contemplation we have a special capacity to be able to do that in our practice.
어디를 다 가자 말아서 심제 탐제 정도 산제 고마 두기 세다 맞아 잡대 보다 지금 가서도 장주가 심 주마 순제네 아니 배 고미에 돈이 도배 셔라다 가자 저 가서도 셔라데 가서도 다 가자 저 가서도 다 가자 저 강투도게 가서도 지금 가서도 지금 몇번 이제가 손에 봐 삼로 단에 아니 가서도 어떤데 전에 다 가자 지금 삼로 단전에 되네 지금 뉴바저 제전에 아니 지금 가서도 가서래다 되네 가서래 이제 장거 고아차 되네 야야 전에 아니 녀반이 전에 되네 아니 저 뭐좀더 도토예지 로다 도토네 아니 되네 배 지금 그래서 용모배 녀보 것수 전에 가서 다제다 저기 다제가 녀보 것수 전에 다 관에 관도 편에 아니 다른 산계게 산계 규게 아니 돈이 더 배셔는 뭐 규도시 이식 뭐 규도시 뭐다 그 저기 다 된대잖아 뭐다 간자 저뭐 가서 딱 보소로 잡는 야게소로 땅 어디 제국도 어디 공부시 어디 시
And so that this mind of enlightenment, keeping that in mind, to moving it from that which is just artificially generated into something that is, completely part and parcel of our every moment. 24/7 is the goal, so that we kind of live our life according to the bodhicitta principle, to bring all sentient beings to that state of enlightenment. And then combining that, realizing that with that goal to attain enlightenment, we need the wisdom of emptiness, realizing emptiness. And so to do the best we can to move from the mere aspirations and imaginings around emptiness into that which is kind of in which it is kind of like injected with more and more conviction, and to the point where we can bring it to a direct realization, thereby bringing it into making it a direct antidote to suffering and to the mental afflictions which cause suffering. And so at the end, to maybe combine with those two to really act as the true causes for the state of enlightenment. And so we need to not just nourish these two mind states, but also to protect them from here on in.
어디를 근데 인자 제 단나도 단단한 것도 내당 뭐래 쇼를 비다 보다 용거 뭐다 단단에 배전지 맞아버 이거 용도에 요 말과 어딘데 저는 배전 제전다 단단 것도 뒤나 세대에 라마 투배 홍보 차차 당분에 상계와 말에 나라도 지금 진짜 내당 뭐지 지금 군대 용무 시험도 주되겠지 아니 림베게 년종게 아니 자주가 셈게 아니 돈이 도배 셔라를 장바전에 깨네 아니 인데 저는 권도 패잖아 다 가서다 저거 산제 군이 버셔와 99만이 되어 진짜 왔다데 델레 차대 왔다 라니 워터 받잖아 아니 라야 뒤에 저서 나고 있는 거에서 왔다 고마시야지
And of course, we recognize where we're at the moment. We are beginners, and so things are, quite difficult for us to be able to implement this kind of a description immediately. But we recognize that what is required of us now is effort, to make that effort, because without it, we will not make progress. And so, we have to look into the way in which the very figure that is making up our merit field, the Guru Manindra, was not always the fully enlightened Buddha, but was again like a beginner like ourselves, under the influence of the mental afflictions, and but then gradually, instilled in the mind the positive elements of love and compassion, and ultimately realizing emptiness, etc., to gradually reach the point of enlightenment and to attain the two bodies of the Buddha. And so we must take that as our example to see that we have exactly the same potential to be able to do that if we continue to make the same effort and gradually attain that state of enlightenment. And so let's clarify that as our objective when we are listening to a brief explanation of these verses from the Bodhisattva's way of life now. Niga Jume Ni and Wogitikdi Re Tsikche Shiba, the Kurso Niba Jidar Bongbala Solani. Say di ni mik Sambala, right there.
Nidu chiwe chigwe Nidu chiwe sa chomba pe sheba rani ja chiwe she wangdu chube longye char miruwa gyawa la mabe na dungenje dungwa juwa wocha.
So we stopped at an outline which was how then to abandon this, meaning the different kinds of laziness. And this is dealt with in two main outlines. First of all, abandoning laziness through reflection on the faults of this life. And secondly, abandoning laziness through reflecting on the suffering of future lives. And the first of these has three subheadings. The first is an explanation of an example showing how death will quickly come and overcome or destroy us. Secondly, that you say that because we ourselves will be subject to death, therefore, it is a completely inappropriate time to kind of oppose laziness then. And second, the third of these points, if we do not make effort at virtue, we are doomed to the torment of suffering.
치와 다 개치시대 아니 치와 삼로다네 다 치와 삼로다네 아니 지금 뒤주 돌아마도 아주 공부시에 송고도 왔다 이게 다 지난주 가소래 지금 타바다 탐제 캠에 고마운 두주 여바지 다 두주 매와 있는 거 내주 로가래 거다 치와 삼로마다 되는 야기를 와다 두주 여바지 근데 두비에 대해 고급 약수 임바지 미 류된디 임바지 다 약수 임바지 이바데 다 뭐지 쳐봐 이바 이나 아니 다 치와 삼로 당한테 쉬우게 좀 자되게 요래 가서나 치와 삼로 당한테도 아니 거 치와 녀봐 남지 녀매 7月在全部都看一家米片把这三路当就过，就出了马当了评个药吧，短大第一切多了，做短大第一切多了，
And so these verses will look into the whole concept of death, and that how, through reflecting on death, we realize that we have no time to waste. This is the most important point here. Of course, if one is not interested in liberation and the omniscient state of enlightenment, then this has no interest for you at all. But for those of us who have that aspiration to attain liberation and the omniscient state of enlightenment, we realize that actually attaining this human existence is the best opportunity we could hope for to lay down the causes to attain those lofty states. And therefore, time is of the essence. And so it's in contemplating the aspects of death, how death is definite, how the time of death is indefinite, how at the time of death only the virtues that we have accumulated, the merit that we have accumulated will be of any benefit to us, is all directed towards our not wasting time, not procrastinating, not putting it off, but not getting down to our practice immediately.
是吧？本来恰恰完呢，本来恰恰完呢，给我起码的，他把他们这起码里趴下的，给我起码的米绿点说了出，然后还有绿点是透过有吧，透过个有吧呢，米绿点拖把到，还有绿点拖把了，你要把都出这么送过个多，出这么送了他们多，出这么哪来呀？少就把要出这么送过个多，你们几个那少就把要出这么送买吧，也没呢，给我起码米绿点。rewa jaya da hai luden rewa jaya la da mewa le da nima jige chujim sungwa ji mewa ina ruwa mewa ina ta kasa di yui zowa di ane chujim chagi do ngondo gyune chujim leshen me sirwa ngondo go gyo yana hai luden yana koso de mi luden tabgo yuwa ina debegal hada mi luden sungwa nyama do chujim sungwa do ruwa ta digande la 순간별 하이 루텐 톱고고요나 니에바도 쌈딩은 무시 톱고고도와 그러와 수메 감라 깨고는 추짐 대이 때도 수메가 무시 톱고고도와 다드네 저거 사바시 톱고고도는 추짐 대이 때네 땡에서나 셔를 라바 냠설란 거고도와 다 탐지 겸바시 톱고고도 추짐 대이 때네 아니 그거서 추짐 대이 때네 아니 땡에서나 셔랍다 디간데 그저 딱가 땡에서 타와 토발라 땡에서 셔라고 냠내 제국도 다 탐제 줘봐 토발라 데데 땡에서 추림 땡에서 셔랍 디 땡도 장주 그 생명 냠내 제국도 파지 두고 냠내 제국도 다 되고 시대 차대고도 다 된데 로다 어떤데 데려고다 다 된데 야보지 용알라 냐바도 치와 냐바 남지 녀메 치외제 쳐마도 간지 미변바치 된대지 녀바 야보시 녀바이나 뒤주 졸라마다네 추좀 숨그러와 아니 소소 미유 가리인 바이나 하이 고마 토웨이나 추좀 하다미 되벨 하다미 이거 추좀 숨 지바당 서바 검지해지 다 되네 딜레 야 디체네 되베게 가서 되벨 하이 고마다 되베 미래 학세제 순가벨 하도도 어 땡에서 공부도 추좀 디데 땡에서 공부도 안 수메 갈라 수메 수중 데이터 수메게 땡했지 다 타바토고나 디텐데 아니 셔를 라바 공부도 산제 고마다는 수중다 땡했다 셔라 디 땡도 아니 다 가서 다 타바토고다 땡했지 고 아니 탐제 좀 바토고나 장주 땡 라바솜 디 땡도 아니 디 공부도 가서 장주 셈 깨네 아니 제조 파지도 냠내 제국도 다 된대 제일 뒤주 촐라 마당하러 치왕예바 남진예메 치외제 최가 미베바 디삼로 땅마도나 뒤주 촐라단디 용투구문도 와
And for example, to attain a beneficial future life, such as a human being or a celestial being in the desire realm, it is based on the practice of ethics and good ethical conduct, and particularly the avoiding of killing, of taking life, and to be able to to even hope for such a positive rebirth. He would say that one could easily say that such ethical conduct is indispensable. It is the basis. And so we can augment the positive virtues for a positive rebirth with acts of generosity and aspirations to attain such a higher rebirth. But they are all based on good ethical conduct. And so this is very, very important. Similarly, so when we talk about being reborn in the form realm, the main cause of that is meditative concentrations, as well as the formless realms, different levels of meditative concentration. But again, they are based on quality ethical conduct. Being able to live within an ethical framework is extremely important. And even when we talk about attainment of liberation, of course, we need the wisdom realizing emptiness. But that in turn is based on a basis of meditative concentration, which in turn is based on a good ethical conduct. And so those three principles of the path of ethical conduct, of meditative concentration, of wisdom are key to attaining liberation. And so even going beyond that to attain our ultimate goal of enlightenment for the benefit of all, of course, we must marry all of those attainments with the mind of enlightenment that will take us to that state of enlightenment. And so even to attain Buddhahood, our path has to be based on quality ethical conduct as the foundation of our practice. And that begins with the contemplation of death, of how death is definite, the time of death is indefinite, and only our virtue and merit will be any good to us at that time of death, because death says to us, do not waste any time. Use every single moment of this to abide in good ethical conduct and accumulate virtue. There is no time to waste. This is the message that comes from our meditation on death.
Pena ngozo tsedi saye tongye desa tongye moja ta gari imba ine kyuchala gari imba ine digi kewa chimala di ruwa di kabdu de pen togu tu ta togu mudwa ta setila kwaye dende chade yore chade ta kewa chimala peyala kargo chujum sungu tu soba kombo gogu tu jimba tang gogu tu junju som gogu tu ruwa ta lelu pang gogu tu 다 간제 땡에서 공부도 시럽 공부도 다 간제 되게 아니 개와 치마 편절 펴기도 와 개와 치마 편절 펴기도 와다 펴기도 와 와다데 개와 치마 편절 편백 줄을 줘라 편백 줄을 줘라 로아 줘라 다 간제 디 뒤주 초라 땅에 되게 로 폐게 뒤주 초라 땅에 가리던 것도 다 치워 맞잖아 단징 온 거 용도도 와 로아 단지 온도 요도 다 된데 이바에서 고 치와 미다 바테 된데 제도 아니 고 저게 고 뭐유 내수 되잖아 뭐유 내수 임바데 아니 뭐쳐 받잖아 라 뭐쳐 받잖아 고 많이 받죠 공고 요 말에 뭐유 내수 되래다 치와 녀봐 남진 예매 치외제 최만도 가야 미보고도 뭐유 내수 임바데 딱 뭐유 내수 되 임바데 라지 뭐쳐네 아니 단다 미르데 라 미르데 디 아니 가서도 뭐유기 내쳐도 뭐 쳐요한데 미 르데데 누가 첨부 싶지 요르데 이나야 디 뒤지 땡겨 봐 요마를 치원해 봐래 딜레 자자가데 치원해 봐는 뒤지지 요만 채유나 로가 주주주주 자 채줘 봐나 아고 로고셔 잡죠 채 요마를 딜레 치원해 봐도 자자고 딜레 자자와데 남진 예매도 자자와데 다 딜레 남진 예매 레 디레 다 되다 아니 치외서 쳐봐도 간지 미배마 인바 인자다 다주 저거도 치왕 예바 인자 다 쳐줘봐 타제 남진 예매 인자 쳐단단에 줘봐 타제 다 치외서 쳐마다 간기 미배마 인자 가리 제바 이네 아니 쳐서 줘가지 타제 他结果多。
And so, for example, in this life, we may accumulate wealth, property, valuable objects, etc., and have all these concerns. But, when it comes to the future, are they going to be of any benefit to us? As they say, you can't take it with you. And so we have to concentrate on what is going to be of benefit to us in the future. And that is really, to kind of like understand that, the practices of ethics, generosity, of patience, of overcoming laziness through effort, of meditative concentration, wisdom, etc. All of these are going to be of ultimate benefit to us in the future. And so this is, based on the fact that we have, considered the fragility and how finite this life is, and have come to the conclusion that there is no way that we should waste any time. The problems that we have are that time is wasted because of we're grasping at permanence, this idea that we'll always have time to do what we need to do. And so we need to really delve into death in the form of impermanence, and that triple aspects of that that it is definite, that the time is not definite, and that the only thing that is going to help us at the time of death is our merit and our virtue. And so to kind of say this is not some made up scenario, this is the actuality. And so we have to get to that point where we recognize this is true, this is what happens, there are no exceptions to this. So you can understand how, this human body is something great. It's got so much that we can do with it, but it is fragile. It has got a limited kind of duration that it can last, whether it's 50 or 60 or 70 years, there's a limit to the amount of time that it will last. And so that means that shows you that death is definite. But that the problem is the time of death is uncertain. We do not know. We're not told in advance when we're going to die. And so that third part is that, we really have to ensure that we are using every available moment to accumulate virtue and to accumulate merit. And as it says, as the conclusion to each of the three meditations on the three aspects of death. So having contemplated how death is definite, we must conclude that therefore I must engage in Dharma practice. Having contemplated that the time of death is uncertain, we must conclude that that practice must begin now. And as the conclusion to contemplating how only our virtue is going to be of benefit to us at the time of death, the conclusion is that therefore I must find a way to turn every moment into a Dharma practice, to create a virtue in every aspect of my life.
我得他等的不是他等的这这个的更加个说的三路靠吧伊呢而那个这个个说的确切了抓用过哇确切了尊重这个的那要主要了抓用也得尊重这个多尊重呢叫了抓我是那叫主要了我大体点起我就中国有吧人生那抓哪用过哇我这他的叫主要了抓哪苗吧切那几天别个那这个说呀等等抓哪有这个差这个多但刚才了这叫我年轻个联络是个差不多哇这个送大家那个联络里面都可尊重嘛的是吧他可对了可联络空起不哇或者没说了抓哪的了或者确实呢现在或者 준주스기 말고 또 미리 배제 전부도 둘이 자기도 쓰다 쓰기를 대응소에 둘이 잡아도 쓰기를 변조소에 둘이 잡아도 쓰기를 이나 뭐저 단다 준주스는 개와를 좋아하는 것이 공으로 와 단다 딜 레로 콘을 추도도 자원 연신의 레로 쓰지
And so, and this is where this whole chapter on effort, on enthusiastic effort. Remember how we met with the definition of effort is that which rejoices in virtue, as we say. And so it's something that we should take to heart very, very clearly, how, to really understand the great purpose for which we are practicing should instill with us a certain enthusiasm and that taking delight in the effort required to pull it off. And so we must not mistake the effort as described here in a Dharma context with what might count as effort in the material world, where see people praising those who are chasing after money, wanting to get wealthy, and they're saying they're putting so much effort into their job and into their business. This is not counted as effort in this context. This is counted as actually a form of laziness, because it counts as the laziness of clinging to that which is negative. And so one must be clear that the virtue that we are talking about is defined as taking delight in virtue.
레로 송샤고 봐 자원 연신의 레로다 세디게 또그 똥숨다 디게 좀 진짜 저데 저절라 삼로 촌에 매바 디잖아 콜 지다도 거그래 뭐저 류초고 그래 아니 그 미류데 렌데 미류데라 초예게는 세고 내멜라서 뭐 거고 열다 이나야 디코라 게좀 다가라 고코네 뭐다 치만디 튼게되게 최주배 튼게라 맞아야잖아 아니 코와 모두는 코와 거에 튼게라 더 되거든 보다 진짜지를 치바이는 데 자왕연신의 레로스 그러와 자왕연신의 레로 아니 왔다 야 저기 되도 왔다 얘도 중도 말에 얘 추툭툭 말했어는 아니 다니엘 예배 레로 야 최도 신거 여바이네 왔다 지다 지금 예바도 지금 얘는 단단한 마 뒤지면도 단단 뒤지지 못다 단단 가 로에 충중이 단단 뒤지면도 아니 그 정말 되게 뒤지 중소나 지금 있을 때는 길루변 열로 차오르와 길루변 열로스 레로스 로 자왕연신의 레로 아니 다니엘 예배 레로 길루변 레로 왔다 디스ung의 샤와도 침발라 때네 가려 연구 벌서나 아니 주주 개발을 좋아도 연구요 말아 주주도 연구요 말해 어때
And so the three different kinds of laziness that were touched on before are this one that we talked about, the laziness of clinging to the negative. And so this is where one is consumed with the satisfaction of the dogo dam sum, that which is, talking about just what to eat, what to wear, and one's reputation. And it's really not, discounting, of course, the real need for one to earn money, to have a house over one's head, and to have food enough to live, and so on, clothing. That's, taken for granted. That's fine. But when the accumulation of money, for example, becomes our sole concern, so that we place so much emphasis on the accumulation of money and things, this then is counterproductive to any kind of spiritual aspirations one has. And it's clear that one is simply laying down the causes to keep revolving in cyclic existence. This is why it's counted as a laziness of clinging to that which is negative, unproductive. The second, or counterproductive. The second kind of laziness is the laziness of a kind of indolence, where we use the excuse of, I can't do that. That's too much to expect from me. I'll never be able to do that. where you are kind of like, it's a sort of sloth and a sort of a despising of oneself and using it as an excuse not to put in the requisite effort. And so this is the second kind of laziness. The third kind of laziness is a type of apathy, which is manifest as procrastination, where you're constantly putting off the idea of really putting an effort into spiritual practice. You say, oh, I've got other stuff to do. I'm too young now. I'll get into it when I'm a bit older. And you're again, putting it off again and again. This is a type of laziness, the laziness of procrastination.
Tendeki lelu ke shawando ma chowa na ane ko tsudwe kiawa kiawa la choye lo de chunga yinba ina ane rangi tuzui to chola tangi me duwa tuzui chola ma tangba ina kodu shiwa ina kiawa me bachara kiawa chima tepe kiawa yabu len tuye ane lakdo to chika so de chika tabe chika kulung da dige de simche tamche kido sanje koma tobe ke cheto ane be kiawa la choye samlo tene tsudwe chikomne kaso de ta tsudwe ke pache nyamle chika chima ina ne 오다 그 되네 되도 산제 고마 줘야 그 세정부 대원에 다 세통도 대원에 가야 겨와요 말로 소소 되게 그가 아니 겨와 저마들 야 최죽두게 최 삐다고 죽두게 되네 지금 야 겨와질 내내 거 줘들 거 거두치네 겨와 매대 미스 줘다 대바 제두고 도 미스 된다 대바 제두고 로 어떤데
And so what this chapter is really talking about is to really take a completely different view on effort, of recognizing that effort is that which takes delight in virtue, and therefore there is no time to waste. And that I have my motivation always. I constantly repeat that I wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And I just recognizing that this perfection of enthusiastic effort fits right in there. That I don't know how long I have left. Maybe I have a long time, maybe I have a short time. But if I am able to greet each day and each moment with this attitude of wanting to rejoice in virtue, then I know I am as much as I can making my life not just full of virtue, but also meaningful.
단단 subject 거도 치와 좀 응고송도 통화 대배셔봐다 치와 좀 응고송도 통화 당보들라 녀모 자외 쇼네네 계획 전에 취준네 지다 칸의 손조와 지대 당도 미세 섬스
And so the first of those subheadings, that is that, the example and explanation of that the fact that we will quickly be overcome by death. This has, again, 2 points. First of all is to see directly how we are overcome by death. And then the second is the example and explanation. And so the first of these is verse number 4 of the chapter 7 on enthusiasm, which says, "Enmeshed in the snare of disturbing conceptions, I have entered the snare of birth. Why am I still not aware that I live in the mouth of the Lord of Death?"
레로 라서베 녀몽을 잘션 쇼데 온도 제네네 양세 치만 년산 조에 계획자니 취준의 치다게 칸에서 개와 도마송와 조와다 조와 조와 네 지대 단도 교계 미셰섬셰 셰고서 셰바워자
And so here it's saying how, we are ensnared in this mesh of the mental afflictions, such as laziness, etc. And that also this is that which keeps us, going from birth to birth. And we have, we're looking forward again just to being born into, again, the snare of birth. And we must kind of come to the point of knowing that we are in the jaws of the Lord of Death. We're born into death. as it says. And they'll say, why is it that we still don't realize this? It's something that we have to realize.
Right. What the guess the Jango China guess Chiwi Chedo Redwa. Guess the that gave us a jar that chick the touch of water. Right. Rwanda go Chiwade, give a Korang Chiwa Jubo Gudwa. Right. Give a Korang Chiwa de Jubo Gudwa.
And so that birth, we have to look on birth as being really the beginning of death. We are born, and it's like that birth is a cause of inevitable death and thereafter. It's like we are born in order to die.
That Lenyu Chiwa is a Rawan never Chigo. Rana
and so what's happening is because we are born out of control, or we are under the control of karma and the mental afflictions. That's why we are born in this way. We don't have any freedom in relation to how or where or when we are born. And so there's no power over our birth and no power over our death.
And 다야 체랑 야가지를 시대 뒤주스다는 뒤다야면도 와. 가요 말에. 잠시 가야면도 와. 또 와. 뒤주다야면도 시도도 뒤주다야면도 거대 라오메 받잖아. 저되기도 와. 라오메 받잖아. 저되기도 와.
And so some people pay great faith in astrological calculations and so on. And where the exact time of your birth is required and all that, and they can read.
No, I'm not the 지단 것들 내가 저거들 지나 어슬로지가다 된들 개체 못 하기도 와. 당운에잖아 소소 깨대 뒤주 상보질에 깨나 야보로 와. 뒤 다이 고감도 와. 라와 매바 깨운 것도 와. 그러다 시도도 라와 매바 시도도 와.
So I say, yes, in spite of this kind of field of study, what is a bit patently obvious is that we don't have any choice over the time of our birth. Similarly, we don't have any choice over the time of our death. There's no power there. We are born under the influence of karma and mental afflictions and so on.
어디래도 왔다 그러다 오늘 저 딱거나 뒤다 그거 요만은 그래서 라와메 보자 왔다 다데네 이마 인도 다 랑게 라와 여바 소에데 갈래서다 랑게 라와메 봐도 녀몽 제거도 왔다 다 녀몽게 아니 디 아니 가서데 녀몽 아니 저 가서데 시답다 녀몽 메바 소야 탑시 제네 아니 저와다 제네다 조데 다지 마리 발라 지고래 다 디니뭐 담에 도베 셔럽 검구고 요래 오래 안 다니세 아니 랑게 라와 메바데 가르쳐 란첸제게 제고래 란첸제게 녀보데 셴첸제래 아니 워데네 인자 다 도도바나 장주거 선다 동니 도베 셔럽 니게 냠네 야고제 제토바 이나 아니 라와 메바 시고예 라와 메바 깨고에 메바 차주고로 와 좋아 차주로 다든데 매바 소에 고급 약슈데 가르에서나 미르데데 가서 미르데라 루부고 토는 누가 좀 보시라 말이다 이나 미 남주들 누가 시우죠 남주 디 온게 아니 장주가 썩고 남네 제도래 동니도베 셔라고 남네 제도 디니 제도바 이마 이나 아니 단단 거저 라와 매바 시고에 라와 매바 나고에 라와 매바 깨고에 디 아니 가서 나 인지결로 엔드 소토고로 와 소토고 하디 무고 소토고 말에 강바가 소토고 말에 모터 직부고 소토고 말에 모던 에듀케이션 거 소토고 말에 다 수도고 소토고 장주고 섭다 동니 도베 셔라 년중 뒤두고 소토고 그래
And so we are operating in this powerlessness. We are powerless as to our birth and our death. But how is it that we can gain power over both birth and death? It is through pacifying and ultimately eradicating mental affliction. And so this is through, first of all, recognizing that the key ignorance is that of grasping at the self-entity, true existence of a self-entity, and in applying the direct antidote to that, which is the wisdom realizing selflessness. And this is how we can do it. And also combining that with the overcoming of the self-cherishing attitude, replacing that with the attitude where we consider others as far more important. And that this mind of enlightenment combined with the wisdom realizing emptiness is the key to eradicating the powerlessness and to giving us power over our birth and death. And that, we must realize that to be born as a human being gives us the best opportunity to make this change, to make this transformation. As particularly, even though the human body is quite magnificent in many ways, it is the human intelligence that gives us the edge, and that here we can change that lack of power, that powerlessness, into gaining control over our birth and gaining control over our death. And it's not money won't do it for us. The fancy car won't do it for us. The modern education won't do it for us, or the mansion won't do it for us. It's the combination of the wisdom of emptiness with the mind of enlightenment that is able to transform our powerless situation into one where we have power.
다 걔네 치주 됐자마래 아 걔네 매와 차주고 야 걔와 저만 년삼 차주고 그래 야 걔도는 야 치주고 그래 걔 가외 동에 나외 동에 대변고 버세자 민여버 동에 미대버 토도 배워 동에 알라 타마 치도에 야 치네 매와 차주고 그래 야 말에 걔와 질래요 그래 야 걔외 동에 가외 동에 대변고 버세 시외 동에 나 가자 가서네 딱 조주 매와 저래도 와 다 근데 조주 매와티 다른 깨와대 깨와 타마소에게 그거 다른 소설 나빠 요래 가서 가서 미르된터 뒤는 산제게 땜바데 제 대야 동아 수제 산제게 땜바 용수 소바데 제네 얘도 그게 된데게 탑시 차상와 때문에 남 차상와저 소설 채요래 다 다른들 그거 요래 다 다른데 쇼바이나 쇼바래 다 땜바 임바 인자 된데 임바 인자 아니 디 마쇼웨 채도 아니 준주 개고 여바 인자 아니 레로 데데 연구도서 레로도 못되네 아니 레로도 까네 준주 개토바 지고도 대 준주 딜라테네 되네 아니 가서 준주 딜라테네 아니 장주가 셈 개토고도 아니 짐바 땅 도고도 딜라테네 추짐 송 도고도 짐바 땅 도고도 아니 가서 서바 검 도고도 아니 땡에 개토고도 셰랍 개토고도 준주 딜라테네 연구도 준주 데 마조나 용도고면도 와 준주디 개쳐버려도 와. 다 준주 용하라 레로 숨데 빵고고도 와. 레로 숨데 막아라 준주 용도고면도 와. 아니 준주도 다 윤대 탐제 중내소로 차대기도 와.
And so, we have to take the attitude that this is a can-do situation. If we don't, we have already been born into this world, and the death is coming for us. And then, if we can't do it, if we take this kind of defeatist attitude, then what's left after death? We're simply going to be reborn again into a life of the suffering of birth, old age, sickness, of not getting what we want, of being inundated with what we don't want, and death, ultimately again. And then again, you go around the same thing again, born again, back into the whole series of sufferings again in the next life. And it goes along ad nauseum in that endless cycle of existence. And so it's kind of like, really, when is the point at which we say, this choice of how things go from here is in my hands? I have met with the Buddha Dharma. I have some affinity with the teachings. I can do something here. I have to see right now as being the absolute ultimate opportunity I have to be able to do something about this situation. If I lose it, then it's lost again, and back into the round again, the cycle again. And so what is absolutely key to progress is effort, is the subject of this chapter. And that means recognizing how kind of we are held back, how we are completely compromised by the different aspects of laziness. And so it's extremely important that we work against these lazinesses, these different types of laziness, the laziness of indolence, the laziness of self-despising, of not being able to do something, and the laziness of procrastination, of being attached to the negative. And so we can do that by really dedicating ourselves to taking delight in virtue, which is the definition of effort, and seeing this as our taking of that wonderful opportunity. And so, if we are successful in being able to counteract laziness in this way, this is going to serve our practice of ethical conduct. It will serve our practice of generosity. It will serve our practice of patience, of meditative concentration, and of wisdom, ultimately. All of the perfections revolve around the perfection of enthusiastic effort. So if we have that enthusiastic effort, then we are making that transformation. Without that enthusiastic effort, it's very difficult to see how that transformation can be made. And therefore, this is why it is crucial for us to find a way to completely abandon, to eradicate the three different types of laziness.
소바 야고 말에 땡아제 야고 말에 셰라 야고 말에데 준주매다 차기도 겨라 쪼에서 마면다 차기도.
And so, it's clear that where we view our practices of the other perfections, the practice of ethical conduct, of generosity, of patience, of meditative concentration and wisdom as not being good, we can simply point to the lack of enthusiastic effort in those practices, the lack of taking delight in virtue in all of those practices. This is what's missing.
어디 차대기도 어디 디 차대도 어디 거서 뭐 줘봤잖아. 거기 개치 보시고 차대기도 와 개발을 줘서 봐 용하대. 다 되도 아니 개회 미든 줘 되게다 하고 봤잖아. 하고 봤잖아. 아니 하고 봤잖아. 아니 거기서 개발을 줘서 봐 용고도 와 어디
So this is quite key, this point of recognizing how this definition of effort, of that which delights in virtue, it might tell us a lot about why we find it hard to engage in virtuous conduct, of why it's not successful or incomplete or never satisfying. And so it's very, very good to contemplate this very definition of enthusiastic effort is defined as that which takes delight in virtue.
pena ngaradola 지금 수 녀바 개발에 녀바 개발인데 페마 주모데 가르쳐 녀바 개발에 녀바 개한테 가서는 개발을 쪼여서만 연구도 와 개발을 쪼여서만 여와이나 술로 녀바 개발에 파드 페마 주모는 수술 개발 연구로 와 개발 연구 쪼여서만 열와 연구로 이 뭐야 가래 서바콤마도 가래 서바콤네 개발 연구요라 딜라 쪼여서만 요 말에 요메다 서바콤 두고면 와
And so, for example, in a situation where you are, quite successful in applying the perfection of patience, in not retaliating to somebody who harms, I mean, that is a situation, that is a virtue. That is something that we should take delight in, rejoice in that, how wonderful that is. And you can see also that if you find no satisfaction in that, if you can't rejoice in that, then how are you expected to repeat that again in the future, to really perfect that practice of patience again?
So, pena Geshe Dani Chenpo Soge, and Chula Nova Kiavana, never let the Pemba to the Kairis, Pemba to Latene, Geva Yungu Yorwa. Konatula Gevala Toya Samba Yova, soon never Kiava in and never let Pemba to be the combat Yungu Yore. And never Kiavana, Soba come to the Karisana, Soba Combina, and because of the Geva Yungu Yova inside, Gevala Toya Samba Yova inside, Soba come to Yorwa. 나랑도 서버 거마도 가서 뭐라서 개발을 쪼여 서버 요마를 서버 검두고 요마르와.
So the great bodhisattvas and great beings have, always had this attitude of, for example, if somebody was to harm them, they would simply be thinking about what way can I benefit this person? How can I benefit this person? They are fully aware of how that is a virtue, and they rejoice in that virtue. It's something that, not only is likely for them to repeat that course of action, that thinking, but also it actually gives one the kind of like capacity to really carry it out as well, more efficiently. The difference between them and us is that we might have a good moment where we don't respond to harm with harm, but we fail to recognize just how wonderful a virtue that is and to really rejoice in it sufficiently. And so therefore we don't want to repeat it. We don't generate the habit of being able to think like this.
어디 되게 된 거죠. 저 개발을 쪼여 삼바 요와에는 개발 주빌에 강해 요 말봐. 개발 주빌에 강 나라도 개발 주빌에 강해 깔래 가기도 같이 가 쪼여 삼바 매버들. 쪼여 삼바.
So, when one has that full appreciation of virtue, then one is able to rejoice in all the virtues that we do, likely to repeat it again and again. One wants that feeling of delight and rejoicing. And why is it for us? Why is virtue so sticky for us, so difficult for us? It's because we don't rejoice in it enough. We don't appreciate it enough.
다들 가리로서 다들 나라도 내 당보 임바에서 그 레라고 셰토에 요마데 이내 무슨 미개발된다 뒤에는 된적을 르된련데요 산제게 쩔어 준비 대바요래 이지요래 당하는 신게 랑게 삼로 땅하이나 좀셀 삼로 땅 두고래 근데 좀셀 삼로 땅 두고도 아니 야다 마야스데 딜라테네 제부 야고 용고도 모두 따야래 제부 양보 용고도나 뒤 야고 차대요래 제부 독자 용고도나 뒤 독자 차대요래 근데 제부 야고 용고도 용고도 삼로 땅 두에 어서 뉴바시 두가 아니 뉴바 딜라테네 아니 거서 못해줘 두가.
So what helps us to be able to rejoice? And so here, we say, okay, I'm a beginner. It's not easy for me, but I have taken a precious human rebirth, not just a human rebirth, but a precious human rebirth. Why? Because I have met with the Buddha Dharma. I have a certain faith in the teachings. And not only that, but I can reason based on the information of those teachings. And so I can understand that through a virtuous action will come a beneficial result. And so knowing that you're laying down the causes for something better in the future, that is enough, isn't it? Surely to allow us to really rejoice in doing the right thing, in engaging in virtue.
가서 미다 둔두기 에네 개발치에 두주레스 그러 미다 둔두기 개발치에 두주를 쓰고도 다 소소 미인다 둔두 인게 다 예와 체토 예와 체가 뒤주레스 이 둔두라 통조 지고 요 말이 네 둔두라 삼로 땅에 뉴바 대점 요 말와 아니 나라도 미인바 인사 삼로 땅에 뉴바 요바 인사 디 삼로데 땅은 뭐요 그 네츠투마 삼로 땅에 아니 가서 땡기 디기 줍투바 제바이나 아니 소소 문에 미차되어 요레스 덴데지 제토 메바나 아니 둔두다 개바 가 요마레 스타트는자 소소 문에 둔두레도에 문에 미리샤 개발체에 뒤주레스 모두 리덴디
And so, especially as the Kadampa Lamas emphasize, says now is the time for human beings to distinguish themselves from animals, and to understand that that animals don't have the same capacity to think. They don't have that thinking power as human beings have, and so we have that capacity. We have the capacity to be able to transform our lives into those that are centered on permanent happiness, on definite happiness into the future. And so you need to establish that and make that distinction very, very clear, that because of this particular rebirth, you have that extra capacity, that special capacity to lay down causes for future permanent definite happiness that an animal, for example, does not have.
Today in Bayinsa, Taring also me Kewa Lembate, Kewa Chima, and the Tunduwa Dendeta, Nyawata, Nyasonda, Kewa Leg, Jujitum Devaina, that's also me Kewa Gocho Marisungu Yorba. Taring me Kewa Lembate, Kewa Chima, and then Dene Dedu, Sanje Goma Jutubeke, and a Jujitum Jotoina. There is Jutuena, so there me Kewa Lembate, wouldn't me Kewa Lembate, Gocho Marisungu Yorba.
And so saying that, should we go from, a human rebirth in this time to perhaps an animal rebirth in the future, or even a hungry spirit or a hell being in the future, then it's very, very, it's clear now that we will not have the capacity to think in the way we do now, to be able to be of benefit to ourselves in the way we are now. And so what's key in this life is that we can guarantee through our actions, through our behaviors, through our virtue in this life, to attain that human life, that precious human life again, from a lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, so that we can proceed along the path to enlightenment. It's very, very important that we are born into that same subtlety and depth of awareness that is the purview of a human life, a human being.
다 되네 이거자 모두 지다 디샤 지게 가서 지 개갑 파라레 디발레 지게 풋볼레 소카레 컴피티션 뭔가 지게 여러 다 되도 지 야보더레 류제다 뭔가 다 딜레 다다 가라서 소소 개 소소게 컴피티션 지서도 오다 소소 듄줄레 하가지 제토에지 로아 지 가다 말라마도 라마도 소하는 시제는 다 듄줄다 미 개발 체외의 뒤주지 다른 게 제단의 둔둔하지 제는 침바이나 다사 통 아니 다저 무튼의 녀손의 코아당 녀손의 게 규주 좀의 침바이나 다가 둔둔의 개발 체외발이 미 개발을 뭐 고쳐요 말에 다른 게미 개발을 뭐 고쳐봐지 지금 이 사람들 지 거서 뭐다 전두 지사 소로지 삼로 소로지 여바 체제네 아니 오늘 지금 가서래 지금 가서래 미 남주의 가서 남주 여바데 아니 제도 되네 다 간제 저기 되게 가서데 계획 초도부터 줍투에게 아니 배전 제도거든 야부 잡으러 와 어때래 지고데.
And of course, like from our experience, we can engage in, competitions where we're playing different games of football and soccer, etc., etc. And that's to understand that what is fine in order to maintain a certain fitness of body and all that, but we must understand what is it that distinguishes us from being an animal. It's not just to dedicate our lives to eating and drinking and so on, that this is not really that which distinguishes us from the animal realm. It is the human intelligence that can be turned towards virtue. This is really what distinguishes us. And to understand that having that is a great privilege as well as a great advantage. And so we need to be able to maximize this time to make the effort to be able to take advantage of that which distinguishes us.
lo chung yin zhen samla ta me do ngo tu zhe de ba ta ga zhe da an ga che be lo chung de de zhuang sha ga che lo chim bo chan de zhuang ko lo le ye ba ske me do wa ji da lo ge ba nye la che chung a che la zhuang yin be ke ja re de ye ba ske me do wa ro ga che ji ga so de lo ro ta lo chung a de nye la zhuang lo ge ba de che la ha de ge sam zhan ne ga de操什么个人家捏了装波波摸摸接了他这个都用不多不捏吧开门多对住了捏吧开门多他对不对希望你捏吧的对住了捏吧民多捏吧民多我打的他希望在缺口的看也没办法引把引上他这个但是拍个缺的了我就抓给你这个节目多了而且我就没在你不的给连头个门多他这个我三路看囊了过呀我这三路他了你大个让人多다가라니 받은 뭐 처배 돈에 아주 그 삼로 땅고에 개치 못 찾대도
And so you can see too, that we know that death is definite, but the time of death being indefinite is something which is also all too often very apparent to us, where it's in relation to ourselves and others. We can see that some people we know some people who go away on holiday and return as a corpse, that they had no idea that what was going to happen while they were having a good time. And we can see how, in general, older people who have more years die before younger people, but there's nothing definite about that either. Often the young go before the old. There's situations where, the grandchild may die before the grandparent. And so there's nothing certain about our time of death. And this is, again, how we, really understand that when our time of death does come, then only the virtue that we have accumulated will be of any benefit to us. And so nothing else can be taken away with us. And all the efforts that we have put in for everything else will be for naught. And so we have to make the right choices here, and to not really be in a situation on your deathbed where you realize you have not taken the essence of this life, of this human life. And, we must therefore focus now to make sure that we are confident at the time of death that we have done our best to take the essence of this precious human life. The second of these subheadings then was an explanation based on an example. And so verse number 5 reads, "Do I not see that he is systematically slaughtering my species? Whoever remains soundly asleep surely behaves like a buffalo with a butcher."
great popo momo yo sigre ane krembe rimbe to ane ordinary me ane ngwashimba ta ane chege pin ja de mangu 니마 이거 먹고 다 미사바 두고도 보다 니마 먹고 매바 차주고 뭐 통대하더라. 통대하더도 왔다. 어데네. 그래서 니라 소베라데 치다 다 이거가 매바 차데 치다 신제가 매바 쇠샤로 치월에는 매바 차르면 또 롱바셔바지 잠자치만 말아. 라다 체 미지 지기다 치 개베 타마 치와서 근데 중에 매바 차주로 치다 그 림지 쇠바. 야 저기 무슨도 통과 맞죠다. 저랑 무슨도 통과도 와. 통과도 와서 아니 소소야 다 소소게 될 림바 찍도도 소소 림바데 람예데 예데 두고 요르바 소소게 가서 가서 조금 쓰르베 베나 뱅당 된다 저도 조금 제게도 나바 제게도 다 나바 당보데 니바 소바서도 소소 나바 자타바 임바이나 나바 나두 뒤게서 자데 람예데 예데 두고 요르바 람예데 예데 두고 요르바 어데 두고 다 조금 맞아 야야练过로 konchok wenja nila tenje gewala mijuwa wata tendege kasodeta kasode ji tanga chiwa lamye de dogo so ngotene ane ji danda mi namje de beju tani gewa modo ne ane demege ta ni kola so tendege kasa nila tenje gewala mijuwa de ba kanimba ta ko samro ke kogumun doesta 겨울에 삼로 코문데 인데 리베조도 다 치와녀와 남진녀 치외에 치마다 강야 평금문도 아니 치외에 팬배 돈다지 주금에 메스고 여러봐 미도바 강인바 데네스다 빼차샤바이나 빼나 차샤바이나 다 지금 셴바게 다 지금 마이라 소바다 진짜 세온데 진짜 방진의 세계를 봐 방진에서 다 당번이바 수마시바 세드 셴바디가 진짜 남주스 그냥 하고요만 다 소주치에 남녀도 저거다 이 기부 큰 대대가 열받아 대도 왔다 디나시 다 개바면 도가서 마이 서바 통야 작바메 바 내와시 신노 셔바 오다 들레 연거로 소소 연거에 나와서 게 맞아왔잖아 왔다 디나시 차대도 와서 다 디지도 소소게 미 남주의 배주 땅 두고면 도와서 거요 닝보드 렌 두고면 도와서 그봐 닝보드 렌 두고면 도와서
And so this verse really details how, it says here, do I not see that he is systematically slaughtering my species? So say it's really referring to all of our relatives and so on, since the time we have first come into this life. How many are still left? Our great-grandparents, our grandparents and parents and so on, and they've all gone. And to say that, the Lord of Death gradually, systematically takes them. And so we have to understand and admit that this is for real. This really happens. There are no exceptions to this. And so that so many have gone already. It's very, very obvious that death is definite. And that, but we also know the time is not definite. We see all this, but here we are in a situation as if we are still asleep. We're kind of like really not concerned. We are not engaging in virtue. And so we were just completely kind of, as it were, stunned by the whole reality of something that we're not able to see what needs to be done. And so that, it's not like our relatives and so on were taken to a different country. They were gone. Their life is over. They died and they're gone. And the same fate awaits us. And it's saying, like the example of the butcher, who is, whose job is to kill all these buffaloes that are waiting in line one after the other. And they are as if unconcerned about their fate. One goes in and they are butchered and killed. But the one that comes next is still, as it were, unaware of what comes next, and they remain dulled and unconcerned. And so this is the situation that we are in. It's like, we are definitely in line as well, like that, waiting to die. It's like those tickets, these token tickets you get when you get into the bank, and you have to wait for your number to come up, and so you're all waiting in a queue, as it were, for that. It's exactly the same in terms of death. Death is definite, and the time is indefinite. So we're all, getting closer by the moment to being called up for our ticket to come in. And so we don't want to be in a situation where we're at that point of death, about to be taken by the Lord of Death, where it becomes clear to us that we have not taken the essence of this life.
치료도 개화시는 되게 되게 삼자다 되네 말다 단데 치료도 되 개화시는 매바다 차가 말다 이네 단다 미 남주도 뒤 매바자 뒤 방법 디스고 여봐 미 남주 다 되네 소와 가와도 되네 배나 치와다가 되네 키질에 깨줘서나 미 삼로 매 차자다 삼로 당에 매 차자래 로하다
And so,
뒤 방법으로 와
and so what the biggest loss is, of course, is to lose this intelligence that's associated with being a human being. Imagine if your next life was that of a dog. So that human intelligence is lost to you. And that is the biggest tragedy, if we haven't been able to use that intelligence to be able to make the maximum of this life, and then end up without it in the next life. That's the big disaster, really.
그래서 거치기 지금서 매바 차조로서도 먼저 지 가서를 야 개화시달는데 지금 강하려면 될리 상당히 말다 미류된데 가서라 지금 타바다 탐제 겸바도 땡기 되게 두고서도 개화 두게 아니 뒷밥 방기 된데 이제 그 남주고도 삼로고 뉴바치고도 된데 되다 미 남주는 시 셔바를 연구 말아 봐 아니 가셔라다 안또 남주 매바 매서 디간들다 가자 저기 로타 베나 둔두이나다 지게지라 사와라 소와다 아니 다가네 체외게 중앙에서 중앙 망보 쳐와 사와라 가자 강에 시불도 같다 아니 저 쉐드베다 파쇼 아니 이다라 깨다는 아니 남주다 팀비지 삼로다 미바다 도와줘 요다 아니 베 사야다 통에면에 강에 전에 야 고추가 삼로코나 제토에 걸어 요 말아 아니 냐와라는 다 대간에다 곧 지금 상장의 동네라서 빠도 매봐 쏠라 매봐 주요 건 용해 거라 매봐 다 되네 용해 니가 예 되게 약속에도 미류된데도 봐 미류된 미류된 날에다 대적을 류된야 미류된 게 맞아 항상에 개면도 봐 항상에 그거는 어저 더블린다 통대래 다 뒤는 심지 탑재기도 산재 고마 접도 얘기 주위에 삼로 거도 얘기 누가 요게 안딜 매바 요게 안데 그 류대제다 매바잖아 방법에도 와
And so, it's kind of like really saying that to recognize what you can do with a precious human rebirth, that you can focus on virtue, you can abandon negativity, you can attain a precious human rebirth, you can attain the state of liberation, you can attain the state of enlightenment itself. I mean, that's phenomenal, what really can be attained with that intelligence of a precious human rebirth, and it being directed in the right way. And other than human being, other types of rebirth do not have that capacity. An animal, if we're born as an animal, you're dominated by fear. There's this fear, suffering of them eating each other, of one large eating so many small, many small eating one large, etc., etc. And there's no possibility of directing what little intelligence there is towards Dharma, as a hungry spirit dominated by hunger, thirst, etc., exhaustion, as a hell being inundated by horrible suffering. Again, can't turn any sort of awareness towards virtue. And so the best possible rebirth is that of a human being. But even just a human being is not so special. It's a precious human rebirth one has. If one can recognize that one has that, then you can see how much potential there is in having that level of intelligence married to that motivation. It is really profound. And therefore, if one reaches the point of death where one has not really bothered to use that potential, what a disaster it is, on the verge of losing that, all that potential. It is really, must be one of the ultimate disasters to have all that potential and not to have used it.
아니 치와 고모도 다른 가서 통제的가셔 아니 지금 미제의 선분 내봐 있네 야 메모리 루스 차지게 또 갈 팬도 대도무도 다다 메모리 된서 어디야 보여 점바서 어디야 보여 아니 류된의这个确到主推就这大白就是当嘛都吧이마 이나 디링 소소 라바다 산이 메모리 루스 이마 셰싱 말와 그럼 알리 마지바 이마 있네 마지바 이마 있네 산이 심하지 셰싱 말때 마시바 온도다네 산이 삼로다에 누가 메바지 셰싱 말와 다 디링 삼로다에 누가데 누가 다 디링의 거저 맞으나 거기 쪽에
So, like, even when we haven't reached that point of death, you know, you can see as well through our own experience how you can be so incapacitated, even when alive as a human being, so as not to be able to lose that potential to turn one's mind to the Dharma. For example, you know, any of the Alzheimer's and memory loss and so on, that, you know, one day you're perfectly compassed, the next day you're completely unaware of what's going on in your life. And so again, that is, you know, where, you know, you've made no effort in the Dharma, but then you reach a point where you can't make any effort so quickly, even though you're still alive, even though the body is still fit, but you cannot turn your mind to the Dharma. And so you can see how pressing it is that one actually gets down to it as soon as possible.
Today was a Chua Yava Yinza and a Chutuet Tache. Namjin Yama is a Chutandan the Tuet Tache. Chiva the Chumato Kanji maybe by Yimba Yinza and a Chije Chuzutoa. Or Tache, who so that never chamber the Tom chamber door.
So the key points, and that which is really important, is, you know, to really take to heart that because death is definite, then we have to engage in spiritual practice. That the time of death being indefinite, we have to do so now, straight away, without wasting any more time. And that only our virtue being us at the time, we must every moment, what's left to is spiritual moment. You can hear, I can't get anything, and it's frozen on the screen.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I think okay. People already got this thing. I think okay. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I'm just comment on again because
남진 예배 인사 최단단 주바 타제 치외의 추마도 가이 미베바 인바 인사 아니 가서데 지제 추도 좋아 타제에서 dom치버도 dom치버.
So just in case people didn't hear that last point, again I was saying what the key takeaway really, and what's really vital, is that one takes to heart that the fact of death, the definiteness of death, means that we decide, yes, we conclude that I must engage in spiritual practice. That from the fact that the time of death is indefinite, we reach the conclusion that, oh, I must engage in spiritual practice now. And that the fact from the contemplation of that only at the time of death, that virtue is going to be of a benefit to us. That means that we turn every moment from now on what we have left into a virtuous spiritual moment. So this is really a very powerful contemplation, very important key issue. And let's leave it there for today. So again, we'll once again bring our mind to the figure of the Guru Manindra in front.
And then that kamsum George to Kawakawa in and that Dunga Hadu and Chaba to Jigga Dunga, Matia Resha, so like Chaba to Jigga Dunga de Le Tawa Jamato Anata, and Quajunet and Jikaso data, Digi or is never touch of what Dunga Rashin, but what to water and during the Kamsum George to Kawakawa and Dunga Matia, so Kumbashe, and then Yavajung and Joe Kumbashe, then Yanjung Yave. Lodi, and Rangi Chiwa, you pump chili juice, pump you also Jawale, and Casole, Pamatama Javachel Juso, some such, and the Chinaga chop, and this Chivan, you didn't do us, do on your mother, son of Touch of a combat, and the day you get home Jela, you home also Jawale, and you make you one Yakon Juso, some such. That the day you buy Yinza, you didn't matter by him by the got 10 Juari, 10 Juari into that, Chicasole. 지그 내조 자세 양대에 따와라서 뭐 다가제 저게데 냠래 제와이나 뭐 냠래 제와이나 다 산제 우라다 주로 가서 사줄랑가라서 냠래 제와이나 다 그게 용서 저도 다 산제 고바서 탑지 요바다 다 줘버리셔 스도 니바니바체 니바니바제네 아니 어디 선제 타서 산제 고마 근데 좀 요바제 맞는 간에티 대한 요아지도 맞는 증거도 주비 선도 공부자 되는 예배도 맞대 아니 이게 아질레죠 아요소제 다외기 뭐 용수죠 뭐 공부세 지교소 선대네 받아서라 뭐를 다게 주면 그래 구조도 좀 모두 자도 순대 담배 가서 배 니베 가서 수배 때를 산제 공부마도 저 송송 선도 어떤 거 다야 보시고 저도 다 오늘 전에 라마투가 온비게 봐 계속 송송 선도 가고
And so then we start to, keeping our attention on the figure of Guru Manindra in front, and to start the process of establishing a seating arrangement on our own crown. We reflect on the cyclic existence and how it's marked by the three levels of suffering, the suffering of suffering, suffering of change, and particularly pervasive suffering. You know, this which is kind of really establishes cyclic existence as in the nature of suffering. And when we don't get beyond the cyclic existence, we don't get beyond the suffering itself. And so this brings to mind this mind of renunciation, a definite emergence sense. And that is marked by the syllable BAM, which is transforms into the lotus mandala seat on our crown. And then reflecting on how all inner and outer phenomena lack any objective existence. They're merely imputed by thought. This then really focusing on this lack of objective existence is symbolized by the syllable hung, and that's transformed into the sun mandala disc on our crown. And this, the consequence of the lack of any deep independent existence leads to the consequence that phenomena arise in dependence. And this very motivation, this very realization verifies the idea that one can progress along a path such as, developing renunciation, the mind of enlightenment, and the correct view of emptiness, to attain the state of enlightenment in order to be of benefit to all sentient beings, and thereby generating that mind of enlightenment, which is symbolized by the syllable A, which in turn transforms into the moon mandala seat. And then we utter the invocation verse, "O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here upon my crown. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind." And so And then the figure kind of moves towards our prepared seat at the end of the first recitation, arrives to sit there at the end of the second recitation. At the end of the third recitation, we have the conviction that, you know, this is wonderful, that we have that protection of the Guru Buddha until we attain the state of enlightenment, and maybe quickly be able to do that. And we rejoice in that reality.
다 되는 지난 거 촉근데 집안에 유단 좀 두상요 말해서 커다 쳐봐 공부하시네 가자 가정대가 셈샤 아니 대 된대게 가자 가상 예배 된대 동반 예배 로데 아니 가서래 이게 홍질을 교수 선사체 배매된도 홍용소 주발래 아니 가서대 님의经过 냐하고 교수 선사체 다 된대 임바 인자 라완의 주와 매바 인사다 때네 중화를 샤선서 왔다 들레 때네 아니 가서대 장주 생게 가서 다 들레때는 산제 교다 장주 셈다 돈이도베 셔라다 사주 남가서 되게 되게 때는 거다 산제 고마서도 주주이 받다 라완의 마주바 인사 아니 대 용이 받은 여반이 요구도와 좀 전에 삼상도 왔다 근데 왔다 산제 고마 주주 요바도 마주는 칸에트에서 대 요한이도 주도와 지금 있어서 고마시한테 아니 선제 탐제로 산제 고마 주주 있어 요한이도 주바 지금 선자 로체 된대그 주바데 이게 아질라 교수 서자자 가서데 님의经过 있던 아디 용서 주발에 아니 다외经过 냐강와지 교수 섬사자 되네 반대자가 라마를 못해 다게 인가 비면서 가서 구소도 좀 못해 자도서 이래서도 저 람게 집어 라마 투야 온 거데 지존에 마쇼 왜 그러나 진짜 마쇼네 아니 지존에 마쇼나 람게 인가 가도 아니 되게 가서데 가서 다외 때도 다 님배마 담에 가서데 배마다 님마다 다외 된게 때도 어다 주스 담보 가서 배 니버 가서 쇼 스베 때도 다 산제 고마마도 오버쳐서 다 야고 쉬우 정소 때네 배마 담아 되는 때 남준 내단데 신내 네가 도지 거부 생활적 하지 뒤 타고도 뜸배 청아 다에서 어머니는 마스 좀 벗은 거다 되네 지르 자매야 송아 엄마 알아봐서 나티디 데르스 코레 인스텝티죠 되네 된데가 송아 엄마 예담을 해 마셔만에 있어 되네 코레 나고 자데 무슨 어떤지 요소 어떤지 내 소설을 고바자
And so then at this point, we offer the 7 limbs of practice and the mandala offering. And then once again, we reflect on renunciation, how this cyclic existence is in the nature of suffering, and how we must gain a definite emergence from this. This is contemplation is symbolized by the syllable BAM, which transforms into the lotus and moon disc mandala seat at our heart center. And then again, reflecting on how all inner and outer phenomena lack any objective existence. They're merely imputed by thought, and focusing on that mere negation of the object of negation produces the syllable hung, which transforms into the sun mandala seat at our heart. And then from that establishment of the lack of any independent existence, and which confirms that phenomena arise independence, and that dependent arising verifies the possibility of a path that can be followed towards the state of enlightenment, and that we can lay down the causes to establish the 5 paths and the 10 grounds and the wisdom and the mind of enlightenment itself, so that we can really gain a sense of conviction in the validity of a path that can be followed, and our capacity to actually accumulate all the causes to be able to reach the results of that path. And so we want to quickly attain that state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings, and thereby generate the mind of enlightenment, which is symbolized by the seed syllable A, which again transforms into the moon mandala seed at our crown, at our heart center. And then we can again issue the invocation verse for the Guru Buddha on our crown to move down to our pre-prepared seat at the heart. O glorious and precious Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your great kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the figure moves down through the crown chakra into the central channel. At the end of the second, they have arrived at our pre-prepared seat. And at the end of the third recitation, we have that again, absolute conviction that the Guru Buddha is remaining with us until we attain the state of enlightenment itself. We rejoice in that fact, how wonderful that is. And then the petals of the lotus fold over and joined and sealed at their tips by a white five-pronged vajra. And that package is surrounded by three mantras, the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha in a clockwise direction, the mantra of Manjushri in an anti-clockwise direction, and the mantra of dependent origination, again in a clockwise direction.
What? Rangin Nigu Lama to be on never day, and Kusung to the USA trainer. Rangi Chivone, County Pala Lutajig, USA China, but I look at Kasoda to Tangela, and USA what it is, Chaps some such a water, no what Chamne, and Rangi Toma Mevana Sabe Tipana Kabatu and Takachi, Migeju to like Kawata, and Jeva Kanamata, Rajan Hanamatobe, never said the. And Tsering ngama la sobe ta kanja thoma meba nyeba kdesa ba changche da so samsa ta ga ni je ani je jiga so de so da ge toba da jaju sembe toba sanga ge danse da gewe ge da ka tseti tsengama so de ge toba shube ge nyeba sawa de yugre de yoba yude ani de ge nyeba sawa de ge ba changche da so samsa cha ani de order da de Palama, Pamala Magubala, so I keep a lower level to some of Magula, Simjara Neve Legibaso. Donna, Tori the Tabi Gesu Jueg, Tori the Tabi Gesu Jueg, Koyasu Yedong, so Chichaba Kaja, but charge it out for some. Takaja, Nudo Sanje, Komato, like Gun Chishute, and the Tamega Nashi, you might Tamega Nashi can't have done. Kanata Tawara Jabaji Chadwa Yawishu, so some such. And what did the Komasha?
And so then from within the lotus petals, the Guru Buddha there starts to emanate countless rays of light emanating from body, speech, and mind, and permeating through every aspect of our bodies, from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet. In fact, permeating through every atom of our existence and affecting a complete purification of all negativities that we have accumulated since beginningless time. And all obscurations, centering on the likes of the negativities associated with the breaking of the tendon, or with the tendon virtues of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, of lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, and idle gossip, and of covetousness, malicious intent, and wrong view, of all of the negativities associated with that which is being prescribed by the Buddha are naturally occurring negativities. All of these that have occurred in this life, in previous lives, in the life previous to that, going back to beginningless time, are all completely purified. And all of the Pratimoksha vows, the Bodhisattva vows, and the Tantric vows that have been that we have gained infractions regards or downfalls, whether they've happened in this life, in a previous life, or any life previous to this, going back to beginningless time, are likewise all completely and utterly purified and rectified. Any disrespect we have shown to our parents, up to our gurus, all associated negativities associated with the body, and illnesses and diseases, that which prevents us from engaging in a perfect spiritual practice. Likewise, any mental disease that prevents us from dedicating ourselves to virtue, they are all utterly and completely purified. all of the negativities that have led to any imbalances within our elements and the channels, winds and drops, they are also recalibrated and rebalanced. And in particular, that which acts as the major obstacle to our quickly being able to attain enlightenment, namely ordinary appearance, that is transformed into pure appearance.
다들 랑게 신도 저 롱데 니랭게 라마 샤자생 고데 렌지 지겐체 소소류데 라마 샤자생 고로 주소 서서 소소 신도 서베 차였습니다. 니랭게 라마 샤자생 투데 렌지 지겐체 소소 셈데 라마 샤자생 투로 주소 랑게 롱아이소 라마 샤자생 구소도 뭐 예메도 주소 삼사체 뭐 예메도 주소 오 삼사체 아니 어들자 아니 뭐 예매지 대화대 대화도 대돈이스 메시 저소스 아니 랑 내사게 내대 여기 견다제 제는 라마샤자 생기게 다베시도 주소 서서 어디는 고바자.
And then through the combination of my own more subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of the Buddha. And then through the combination of my own most subtle consciousness or mind acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. Now I see my own body, speech, and mind as being inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. This induces a sense of bliss, which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. Similarly, the place in which I find myself is purified of all fault and becomes the palatial abode of an enlightened being.
그래서 라마샤야스가 고르교와디 나라라시 메바주 콤바셰 나라라시 메바주 콤바셰 디 두가레 라마샤야스가 빠도 메바 쩌네 심제가 장단이 와 라마샤야스가 저 아니 심제를 라마샤야스가 찾아오래래 팀발라 때네 대다 기지가 라마샤야스가 고르교소 섭사자 대다가 내사가 내디야 뇌의 견타졌잖아 라마샤야스가 다베시도 교소 섭사자 왔다 되자 왔다 我大要不是说是夸生的，但你们敌人的动作上不上见的？我大动呢，夸动大人，他动作上不上？我的那个恐怕讲，我大要不是说看看你的，那么现在是个啥了？国土啊，要不是说上不上？我大甚至他们这个三界恐怕，甚至他们这三界个啥了？国个是，但你们敌人国土他要不是说，这他甚至他这三界个啥了？国嘛，第一切都说是叫我干住啊，在主边说什么语言的主吧，对上要嘛的，上不上是恐怕讲。第东半年东北대화 때 대외 동반 대전 있으면 이 시켜 소소 공부하자.
And then seeing myself as a fully enlightened being, indivisible from the body, speech, and mind of an enlightened being, but also lacking any inherent existence. I send out countless rays of light, going out into all the 6 realms of existence and dissolving into the crowns of all the beings in cyclic existence. They spontaneously arise as fully enlightened beings. The place that they are in also is transformed of all fault and becomes the palatial abode of enlightened beings. Again, I rejoice at this point. It's how wonderful that cyclic existence has been emptied. That it's great that I've been able to lead all the sentient beings to that state of enlightenment today. This is beautiful. I realize that the state of enlightenment, leading all sentient beings to that state of enlightenment, the merit that has facilitated this and the agent of that merit myself are completely empty of any inherent or objective existence and merely imputed by thought. This emptiness combines with a void, with a bliss, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
다다다 것도 뭐 이제 소문에 다 데려라 가지고 요마르와 이내야 데린 삼로 땅와디 다 사변소로 제네 다 보자 다 심제 탐제가 산제가 살로 거발라 라니 산제가 사마도 토모도 디 토발라 아니 자주가 돈이도 베시라 냠슬라고 다 데르 다 니마 디리네 손도 아니 개가 나지 다 내당 그래 초이네 기부주나 도부주나 내당 그래 차바 이마 이나야 정말 치바 이네야 디 자주가 선다 돈이 또 배시라 계획이 아니 튕게도 저도 봤지 이게 지금 삼다 담자샤 아니 배주 지금 삼사 어디래 공부했지
And of course, we realize that we're operating at the level of aspiration and imagination here. Things are not so easy to reach that state. But let's be realistic and understand how, in our dedication, we realize we have sown a seed here, a seed that this may be attained as quickly as possible. It really is made manifest, and that in order also to speed this process along, I realize that I must be able to gain the skill to transform every situation and every moment into a conducive condition for the applying of the motivation of the mind of enlightenment combined with the wisdom of emptiness. And that means that in everything I do, and even at the point of death, may I be able to see it all as a conducive conditions for the application of that twin motivation. Rawe korwe shinkam yuru pendang dewa malu jangwe ne chen re jing wang de chen gatso yi shake si te ba de ten gyu chi ne che we te chen chen ji Dream Kempe Wong Do Jam Gong Chen Kempe Zu Chen Tong Kapa Lo Sang Gai Gui Shab Lo Wang Ming Chen 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 Re Dream Kempe Wong Bo Jam Gong Chen Kempe Zu Kien Tong Kapam Lo Sang Gai Ping Shab Lo So De Mig Te Wei Te Chen Chen Dream Kempe Wong Ho Jam Gong Chen Kempe Tu You are Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, said Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of snows, Losang Drakpa, at your feet, I make requests.
Also, no, thank you.
Thank you again,
Thank you very much, everyone. And the Father's Day,
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night. Thank